Okay, so we see this wrapping around and tucking like this from behind and tucking in. And part of that bulk, though, is the scapula itself is pulled out. So this is wrapping around that. Again, now all of these muscles down here may not be as round because they're being stretched and pulling up. So they have an angular quality. Come to this point, this point. All right. So now we can begin to feel the stretch in the serratus muscles in here. We'll see some of those pulling up, up. Narrow this a little bit. All right. And here we see maybe a little bit of a split. We got get a little tone in on this. So we can see it. Here is basically the tricep muscle. It's pulling down this way. And it is also going to attach to the edge of the scapula, which is behind this. So notice we start to get a wedging of all these things. This is pulling in, behind, some things in this way, and so on. We get quite a bit of wedging in there. All right. A little bit of the deltoid, and so on. This stretch, which could go up and maybe over. I mean, I'm not going to continue this, but just to give an idea, we could take it that way, right? So therefore it would be going all the way up, out. We feel the movement, down, right? I get this distance. See, this would be important to me, to the sternum, to the navel, to the pubic bone. All equal, cut away. Inguinal ligament to the pubic bone. Again, the distance is 3 portions, 4 points. Okay. This distance here, about 3 inches, but the truth is that it varies from person to person. Okay, so now we have, what we're doing is we're talking about how these muscles are involved in the development of an action. So it's not so much that they're there, but what they're performing in any given situation. Okay, the other thing I might like to illustrate on this sheet is just exactly what is happening in this particular area. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's review these 4 points here. Again, I'm going to do the egg, cut away, sternum. All right, so from this point to this point, it's 1 section. From there down to the navel, that's 2 sections. Third section is to the pubic bone. So if this is here, and we come down and we grab, say, this here. Let's do that. I get that a little higher. See? This is I mentioned this before. This is kind of the belt line. The actual iliac crest pulls around this way, but this forms a kind of a teacup like this, see? So I come around and find this, and this point on the teacup, once again, I'm coming down and cutting away. So these are my sections, here to here, to here, to here. Again, the clavicle is approximately here, but if it lifts, we're coming out, the arm goes up, and in this case, over. All right. So those are the basic directions. Notice then that when this happens, everything gets repurposed to tell this action. So I'm just giving it to you quickly now, see? Pulling down, all of these things are therefore now involved. Neck, here. It's kind of a quick version of what we just did, see? Pulling it up. Relaxed. Okay. So let's take a look now at just this section around the neck. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the cutaway. Here's the neck fitting in like this. Here's the pit of the neck, or the tracheal notch. People have different names for this notch. Take your pick, whatever you like. Over. We've got this coming over this way. We've got this coming this way. As I said, the hyoid does this. The trapezius turns and attaches to the top of the scapula. And we have the bump right here from, the top of the clavicle. So we have the outer edge. It's a slight bump there. The sternum is here. And the rib cage is here. And the deltoid is here. So we have a notch right here. We have the sternocleidomastoid coming down and attaching here. It's rope-like, but it has a stem. Flange that ties like that. So because the rib cage is pulling back this way, and the pecs pull across from here to here, and a little bit to here, to the outside edge, pulling this way, pecs underneath the deltoid, we have a series of notches. One is here. The other one is just inside the flange from the ropey main branch of the sternocleidomastoid, right here. The other one is in here between the trapezius and the neck here. So that's where that attaches. And then underneath, right here, we also have a notch. So notice that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then obviously we have 5, 6, 7. So if we look at that, that is something that basically you should be looking for and counting on, right? So this is pulling in. Trapezius is doing this, right? It's pulling around. All right. Something like that. You've got these different notches. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this section right here is where you're going to see the clavicle at its most prominent. Right here and right here. The reason I'm saying that is because when this attaches here, and this is a diagram, so the reason we see that is because when the trapezius attaches here, it kind of blends right across almost. I think on most, we won't see so much of the clavicle right there. And the same thing with the deltoid attaching underneath. So it softens these edges. But right here, as I said, there's a notch both on top and underneath. And we also feel that notch right here between the sternocleidomastoid insertion and its flange right here. And of course, there's the tracheal notch. 1, 2, 3, 4 again, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 in all. So when we look up here, we can begin to see those 7, right? Here, 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 and here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's turn the rib cage around for a moment. Okay, so here's our spine in the back. Okay, so that allows me to come over here and draw just a simplified version of the scapula. Now, this is kind of like a scoop. You see what I'm doing? It's kind of like a scoop. And this is all part, in a sense, of the main body. of the scapula. But now this arm swings out this way, and then at this pencil tip here, it turns back. So short distance, turns back in. And that's the acromion process, right? So there's the scapula. Here is the glenoid process. That's where the head of the humerus will be. And then we're pulling down over here to the medial edge of the scapula. And if we come across, we've got T1, C7 going up this way to the occipital ridge of the base of the back of the head. Yeah, let's do that. Base of the back of the head. So talk about this and the relationship of these things. Let's come down here to, say, T12. So essentially, I just want you to see this in simple terms. So it isn't so scary. It isn't so complex, right? All right. Simple terms. See, those are the basic underpinnings of everything that we see. This is the infrastructure. And again, this will rotate, around this way and this way. It can lift up and down and so on. And the same thing with the scapula. The scapula can swing over, swing around, swing up, pull back. And every time it does that, it affects the muscles around it. So let's talk a little bit about those muscles that are involved in any of the actions that happen back here. So in this scoop, which is shaped something egg-like, we got a muscle in here, which, by the way, when flexed, is egg-like. And it's pulling through underneath the stem or the spine of the scapula and attaching over here to the head of the humerus. So we have that muscle in here like this. So that's the supraspinatus muscle. And under that, we have a larger muscle. It's flatter, and it more or less pulls across like this and attaches to the head of the humerus that way. There's a smaller muscle. It is starting at the edge and joining this, called the teres minor. And you'll notice here's the head of the humerus and so on. Then the teres major goes to the inside or to the anterior side of the stem and head of the humerus here. So notice, these are on this side, this is on the inside. So it starts this wedging effect, right? So we've talked about four muscles. One here, supraspinatus, all right? Infraspinatus, teres minor, teres major. Major's pulling over like this. Okay. It might be a little bulkier, but the main thing I want you to see here is what the players are involved here.